Well, merry meet. I've got asked a question on Facebook today, and it got me thinking, so I decided to make a video about the topic. The topic at hand is how do you know if a spiritual entity that you have gotten into contact with are friendly or not, if it's a good spirit or not. And I would say, just like with people in general, you don't know. I mean, there are people who have married somebody, bore their children, and then he turns around and cheats on them and leaves them. And even people that have been killed by their closest family members. You never know. So generally, you have to treat spirits really like you treat everybody else. I like to go in and generally expect the best of people, but they they have to earn actually being trusted. And to me, that is a pretty good attitude. And I mean, that works with both spirits and with human beings. I expect that people will be nice and friendly and okay people to have anything to do with. But that doesn't mean I immediately trust people, and you should do the same with spirits. So let's say you're using the Ouija board and you get into contact with an entity. Don't immediately assume that it is hostile, and don't immediately assume that it's friendly either. Just talk with it and listen to what, if it wishes to give advice, listen to that advice. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to follow said advice. There's where your personal judgments come into picture. So if the spirit then recommends that you eat healthy and check on your old Aunt Sophie more often because she might not be too well, that you can probably assume is well-meant advice. But if they advise that you drop your relationship because your partner is going to cheat on you, you might be a bit more skeptical and check into it yourself before you do anything. So it's basically both spirits and humans have their own agendas. And I think that's what you have to remember. Everybody you meet, whether they have physical bodies or not, have an agenda. They have desires and wishes, and generally, if you are helping them achieve their agenda, or if you're not in the way of their agenda, they will mostly be friendly. If you are against their agenda, they mostly will not. Of course, the degree of unfriendliness will then vary. Some might just shrug and just be a bit annoyed, others might attack you in some way. But, I mean, it annoys me a bit when people have a very, and this person we're talking with wasn't one of those who just asked a question. A lot of people, they seem to have this idea that no, spirits are dangerous from the get-go. You have to be so careful with spirits. But here's the thing. There's a lot greater chance that a human being you meet is both have the desire to hurt you and the ability to hurt you. Because you need both. And um, even if you assume there's as many spirits that are assholes as there are human beings that are assholes, far fewer spirits have the ability to actually do much more than draw a bit of energy from you and making you tired. So, yeah, you decide if they can do some harm or not, usually, with whether or not you actually going to follow their advice. So, people don't immediately get evil if they become ghosts. A nature spirit are not immediately evil, just that they are not immediately good. I also think here it's important to remember that spirit most people are not good or evil. It's not like we have the classification here, good spirit, bad spirit, because good and evil don't work like that. Generally, we classify good as what helps us attain our goals, what is in line with our personal morals, and so on and so forth, and bad with the opposite. And as such, uh, there are no people that are plainly such and such and such. For example, I consider myself to be a pretty good person. Does that mean that I, for example, will rather send money down to starving children in Africa than buying myself a new computer game? No. Probably be a lot more good action to spend that money. I mean, the $60 or so a new PlayStation game costs could buy food for quite some time for some family in Africa, while for me it provides some hours of entertainment. It would have been a better action to send it there. Does that mean that I don't at times get angry and tell people to go fuck themselves? Does it mean that I don't? Uh, I mean, I'm not all good. I try to be a reasonably decent person, and I would say that most spirits are the same way. They have good sides and bad sides, just as people have, and it just depends on which of those sides you end up. So, generally, when meeting spirits, what I recommend is that you are A. Just behave politely as you would with human beings. Don't use them. Don't just call them for entertainment, because really, uh, mention that scenario. Somebody just called you up, and that is just to entertain them and your friends. You would be pretty pissed if you were used that way. Why shouldn't spirits be pissed the same way? So if you're going to use an Ouija board or some other method to call spirits, do so and either just try to get into communication with somebody or have specific and actually questions that matter. Be polite, thank them for their help, and so on and so forth. But also always be cautious. Like I said, when I meet people, I generally have a uh, positive. I go in positively. I assume that people will be nice and kind and friendly, but I don't immediately trust them. Do the same. Assume that the spirit will be reasonably friendly, but do take your precautions anyway. Protect yourself. Use various forms of, for example, use the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram once a day, or at least, or if you don't use it regularly, do it after you have had spirit communication, as this will banish them any negativity. There's also lots of other rituals that you can use to cleanse and protect yourself. Don't immediately accept something a spirit says at face value, because it can be bullshit. It can be the spirit just not knowing, or it can even have a negative intent. However, while you should remain somewhat cautious, as you should with communicating with anyone, if you go in assuming that this will be a negative entity, that this will be dangerous in some way, you are much more likely to get what you fear. It's like this: if you just assume that everybody you talk with is an asshole and act accordingly, chances are you'll meet more assholes. So, yeah. So, to answer the question, how to it is negative or positive, generally you don't know. You have to use your human judgment as you would with anybody else. Observe what they say and what they do, and yeah, there are such things in my life that you'll never know, and one of the things you'll never know completely are the motivations of others. These include non-corporeal entities. So, I mean, there are no guarantees within the occult. It's I look at it as social interaction, just like any other social interaction. I don't see it as any different going out and meeting a new spirit from going out and meeting a new human being. And I treat both about the same. Now, of course, a lot of spirits have very alien worldviews. They are not humans. They often do not think human. One thing are ghosts because they have been human, But when dealing with nature spirits, for example, they can have very, very alien ways of expressing themselves, of values, and so on. And then it becomes even more difficult to put a good or evil brand on them. So, and often what we then see as evil are more misunderstandings. Uh, it's like you have meet a culture that has that slap you to say hello, and you might then somebody who just comes into that culture might see it as a sign of aggression, and then truly it's a friendly hello, and there are spirits that are like that. So, like I said, remember to protect yourself. Do cleansings, and if you're doing anything kind of spiritual work, you should do cleansings and protections. Generally, meet spirits as you would meet any other person and treat them as such. So go in positively, but assume that they can have negative intentions. Don't immediately trust somebody, and apply your own judgment to any advice you get. Just because you get it through an Ouija board or something like that doesn't mean the information is golden. It's advice. Take it for what it is. So yeah, that's about as much advice as I can give in that about that topic. To me, spirits are just other living entities that are around us. They're not any different from people and anything else that's alive, and deserve the same respect and be met in the same way. And just like people, there are good natured spirits, there are bad natured spirits, but most are a little bit of both. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Have a great day. Keep yourself safe.